Welcome back to the Full Frame Podcast. Today, I am joined with Tina and Paul. Both of you have been on the Full Frame Podcast before. Paul, this is probably news to you, but this is kind of like the second iteration of this podcast, so we're calling it the second season. We did those first 5 episodes, and in the last episode, we actually talked with Madison, who is, what's her official title again, Tina?
Video production.
Video production? Okay. Kind of like a producer role, who gave us a lot of insight into scenario-based training and what went into one of our recent projects with our customers and how that shaped up from her perspective. So today we have Paul to talk about his perspective and a little bit more about like the technical aspects, the filming, the sound, and everything that went into the project from that aspect. So I'm not going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves because, like I said, you've both been on before. So let's just jump into the conversation. Where do we want to start? I think the place that makes sense to me is just talking about the creative aspect of filming. Like, how during that project, how did you make decisions, and were there decisions that you had to make on the fly, or was everything pretty much straight from the storyboard?
I think like with any production, there's always going to be on the fly moments. So there were storyboards and shot lists, and then we would just collaborate with Andrea, the director, for every shot. If things needed to be changed, and with temperature changes, a whole bunch of other unexpected things will result in different shots. And so, really, I just collaborative process and deciding what goes where and how it's shot.
Yeah, and I guess along those lines, how many days a week did you guys work on this project?
We filmed for 2 days.
2 days, but my question from that is, when you're filming, it's probably important that you're filming the same sections on the same day, so that like you're just alluding to, like lighting and conditions changing would make the video probably a little bit less realistic, and people would obviously be able to know that the days have changed. Is that, again, something that the planner thought about?
We did each scenario on a particular day, on a schedule, so that the actors would know when to be there, when their call time was. Last podcast, we talked about the on-site SME, who was very helpful because our director would always ask, what is the emotion the viewer needs to evoke here? And that would help us with what is the film perspective. So I think in the scenario we filmed downtown, made it look downtown. One of the emotions was that of the police officer looking at a strange device in the back seat. Paul did a really cool thing. I'll let you tell.
Yeah, and this kind of gets into the creative aspect of what Paul does during the shoots.
Yeah.
I mean, with this device in the back seat, we wanted to get a shot of his reaction looking into the car, and with car being so small and narrow, and there are limited focal lengths of our lenses,
right? So
I had to use a very specific focal length, which was the 50 millimeter. It wasn't too wide, it wasn't too long, and so it's the right amount of length to capture just like above his, from like just his face.
Yeah.
And so he didn't have to direct him too much, and so his reactions after, of course, was just perfect. You could just see the subtle moments through the crack of the windshield. And so I thought that was also a last minute type of decision.
Right.
And you're being modest. Paul's in the back seat.
Yeah, I was in the back seat. And
with the camera in hand.
With the camera,
yeah.
With the driver.
And also being handheld versus on a tripod or a gimbal. It also kind of, the handheld shaking look of it. It wasn't too shaky, but just the right amount of shake to capture the intensity of that moment.
Have you, and I don't know your background well enough, Paul, but have you worked on any like major projects that involve full sets and full camera teams and all that?
I think my own short film.
Okay.
Way back in 2013 or so, the 20-minute short film.
Okay.
And I had a cinematographer and PAs and all that.
Right. So I guess where I was leading with that is like, in your experience, or maybe just from what you have gathered educational wise, is there as much freedom on a larger production when it comes to those last minute decisions? Like if, say, someone's working on some big movie or something, large production, do they have the ability to say, I'm going to get in the back of the car and get this shot because I know it's going to look better than anything else I could have done?
I mean, I guess it would depend on the production and the director. Because for comedies, I know people are allowed all this time to improv.
Yeah.
And so if there's that much time given, I imagine there could be room for other areas or creative license that the director wants to do, or even the producers. I think but also I've been on sets where it's extremely tight schedule, and then there's directors like Clint Eastwood who would just do one take. I was an extra on one of his war movies.
Oh, really?
So he would just that's what he's known for. He just does one take, move on. And so some critics will criticize his direction for that because they'll see blunders and
Right.
so it really kind of varies on each set.
Yeah. Do you want to talk more about, let me formulate my question here, more about the creative process, but like, say the SME were to, I know there was an instance where the SME on set, the police officer would give some advice saying the gun should be held like this, or this is an important piece of the story of how a police officer responds to a scene. Did that change the way you shot any of the scenes? That's a wrap for this episode of the Full Frame Podcast. We hope you found these tips on leveling up your corporate videos useful. If you're interested in taking your videos to the next level, be sure to check out AVIAN's video production services. Our team is dedicated to creating high-quality, engaging videos that not only tell your story, but help you reach your goals. To learn more, head over to our website at avian.com. That's avian.com. And don't forget to tune in next time for more insights and advice on video production. Thanks for listening.